Right now, you can open an app on your phone, prompts an AI, and basically access godlike computing power at the speed of light.
Oh, yeah, it feels like magic.
It really does.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, that 21st century digital magic is slamming headfirst into a physical brick wall.
A brick wall built in the 1950s, actually.
Exactly. Our public power grid. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a comprehensive analysis report on Bloom Energy Corporation.
Ticker symbol BE.
Right, BE. And a few years ago, Bloom was generally viewed as, just another alternative clean energy tech company.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
But fast forward to mid-March 2026, and their stock has rocketed over 550% in the last 12 months alone.
Which is just a massive number.
It's insane. Wall Street has completely re-rated this company, pushing its market cap to roughly $43 billion.
Right, so they're no longer just a green energy play.
Exactly. The market is treating them as the ultimate critical energy infrastructure play. So today, we're going to figure out exactly why that happened. Like, is this incredible valuation just a bubble, or a fundamental shift in how the world actually gets its power?
Well, it's an incredible pivot. I mean, the 550% number is what grabs the financial headline, sure.
Definitely.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the real story here is a masterclass in solving an industrial bottleneck.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why investors are pouring billions into this stock, you really have to understand the sheer desperation of the tech giants right now.
Desperation is the right word.
It is. The sources lay out some numbers regarding AI data centers that are honestly hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, the projections for 2035 are staggering.
Right. By 2035, over 50% of new data centers are going to require more than 500 megawatts of power.
And nearly a third of them will need over 1 gigawatt.
Which, just to put that in perspective for you, 1 gigawatt is roughly the equivalent of powering the entire city of San Francisco for one single building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the immediate question becomes, well, where do you get a gigawatt of power?
Right. You can't just plug that into a wall.
No. Historically, a tech company builds a data center, goes to the local public utility, and asks them to run massive transmission lines.
Yeah, to connect the building to the grid.
Right. But the public grid hasn't seen meaningful visionary capacity investment in decades.
So what happens?
So right now, in major tech hubs like Northern Virginia or the Bay Area, developers are being told that grid interconnection will take a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years.
Wow, 2 years?
Yeah, and in the AI arms race, a 2-year delay is essentially a death sentence for a tech company's market share. They literally cannot afford to wait.
And this is exactly where Bloom Energy steps in, right? Because their solution completely bypasses that 2-year waiting line.
It does. They manufacture what are called Solid Oxide Fuel Cell, or SOFC, servers.
Okay.
And it's really important to understand how fundamentally different this is from how we usually generate power.
Because normally we just burn stuff, right?
Yep. Exactly. Traditional power generation usually involves burning fossil fuels like coal or natural gas to boil water, create steam, and physically spin a massive metal turbine.
Sounds messy.
It's violent, it's loud, and a lot of energy is wasted as heat and friction. But Bloom's solid oxide fuel cells do not burn anything.
Wait, really? No combustion at all?
Zero combustion. Instead, you feed them a fuel, usually natural gas, biogas, or hydrogen, and it pushes that fuel across a specialized, extremely hot ceramic material.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that process chemically rips the oxygen ions apart, forcing electrons through a circuit to create a continuous, silent flow of electricity.
Silent power. And because these fuel cell servers are modular, I mean, they basically look like large high-tech metal building blocks, Bloom can just ship them out.
Right.
And they can have a massive data center site fully powered in just 55 to 90 days.
It's a game changer. You go from a 2-year wait with a public utility to under 3 months.
But the hardware itself has this crucial technical advantage that I find completely fascinating. It solves a massive engineering headache regarding how the electricity is actually delivered to the computer chips.
Yeah, this is key. It comes down to the difference between alternating current, or AC power, and direct current, or DC power.
Right.
The public grid provides AC power, but modern AI data centers, specifically the ones packed with high-end processors like NVIDIA chips, they run natively on DC power.
So they don't match.
Right. If a data center uses the public grid, they have to run that electricity through massive converters to switch it from AC to DC.
And you lose power doing that, right?
You do.
Yeah.
Every single time you make that conversion, you lose roughly 10 to 20% of your total energy as heat.
Okay, so I was trying to think of an analogy for this, like translating a highly technical book through 3 different languages before reading it.
Oh, yeah.
You lose massive amounts of information, which is the energy, and you generate a lot of frustration in the process, which is the heat.
That's a great way to look at it,
Mm.
because that heat creates a severe secondary problem.
How so?
Well, now the data center is trapped in a vicious cycle. You're losing 20% of your power generating heat, right?
Yeah.
Which means you now have to buy even more electricity to power massive industrial cooling systems just to get rid of that wasted heat so your servers don't literally melt.
Oh, wow. So you pay for the power you lose and then pay again to cool down the heat it made.
Exactly. But Bloom's servers completely eliminate that friction.
Because they skip the conversion.
Yes. Bloom's fuel cells natively output 800-volt DC power. They deliver it directly to the chip.
That's huge.
It's an absolute paradigm shift for data center architecture. By eliminating the need to convert the power, you eliminate the bulky rectifiers, you save highly valuable physical floor space, and you radically reduce the cooling load.
It's an elegant solution.
Very elegant.
So providing immediate clean power to AI data centers is clearly Bloom's immediate cash cow.
Well,
I mean, they need power today, and they will pay a premium for it. But our sources highlight that Bloom's underlying technology gives them a massive advantage in what is widely considered the energy source of the future.
green hydrogen.
Yes. What's fascinating here is how Bloom has positioned their tech not just for consuming fuel, but reversing the process to produce fuel.
Yeah. While their competitors are using older methods, Bloom is taking their solid oxide technology and running it backwards.
Right.
Instead of a fuel cell, it acts as an electrolyzer. They call it SOEC, Solid Oxide Electrolyzer Cell. You feed it electricity and water, and it splits the water to create pure hydrogen.
And the efficiency gap here seems brutal for the rest of the industry. Like, how does Bloom's electrolyzer actually stack up against the traditional players?
The difference is striking. Let's look at plug power.
Okay.
They use what's called PEM technology, proton exchange membrane. To make 1 single kilogram of hydrogen, Plug's PEM tech requires 52 to 54 kilowatt hours of electricity.
Which is a lot.
It is. Because it takes so much energy to produce the fuel, their economics are just bleeding cash.
Yeah, the sources said Plug reported a negative $535.8 million operating cash flow for 2025.
Exactly. The day-to-day operations are burning through massive amounts of money. And then you have fuel cell energy.
Right, another competitor.
Yeah, they use molten carbonate technology.
Yeah.
Their backlogs are shrinking, and they have deeply negative margins, like negative 55.8% EBITDA.
Ouch. But Bloom's SOEC tech only needs 37.5 kilowatt hours of electricity to make that exact same kilogram of hydrogen.
Right.
That is a 20 to 25% efficiency advantage over the competition.
It's huge. And the reason why is that Bloom's solid oxide system is designed to operate at extremely high temperatures.
Okay, so how does heat help?
Well, if you feed the system incredibly hot steam instead of cold water, the system has to do significantly less thermodynamic work to split the hydrogen.
So the heat does a massive portion of the heavy lifting.
Exactly. In the economics of green hydrogen, the electricity cost makes up 70 to 80% of your total expense.
Wow.
So a 20% efficiency gain isn't just a marketing feature. It is the literal difference between a hydrogen plant being commercially viable or bankrupting its investors.
And it gets even better if you pair it with industrial waste heat. The sources point to the GIVO Net Zero 1 project.
Oh yeah, the aviation fuel plant.
Right. Factories like that generate massive amounts of excess heat that usually just vents into the atmosphere.
It's totally wasted.
Exactly. But GIVO takes that waste heat, feeds it directly into Bloom's system as steam, and it boosts the hydrogen production efficiency by another 20 to 30%.
It's brilliant.
But wait, if Bloom's tech is so much better and cheaper to run, why are companies like Plug Power and Fuel Cell Energy even still in the conversation?
Well, it comes down to specific use cases. Plug Power's PEM technology is actually very good at turning on and off quickly at room temperature. So if you need to run an electric forklift in an Amazon warehouse where the driver's starting and stopping constantly, PEM is great.
Makes sense.
But when we talk about massive utility-scale power, what the industry calls baseload power, PEM struggles.
Base load meaning it never stops.
Right. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without a single millisecond of downtime. When you are running a gigawatt AI data center, you need baseload reliability. And Bloom wins the heavy-duty continuous operation game.
Okay, so we've established that the engineering solves the exact physical problems the tech industry is facing.
Yes.
But historically, hardware companies that solve physical problems often bleed money on maintenance.
Sure, having the best engineering is great, but eventually you have to prove it on the balance sheet.
Right. So did Bloom actually figure out how to make this profitable?
They did. And the sources point to a very specific moment where Wall Street finally got the proof it needed.
The Brookfield deal.
Yes. The massive catalyst was a $5 billion strategic agreement with Brookfield Asset Management.
Which is a global titan in real estate.
Huge. And they essentially crowned Bloom as the preferred on-site power provider for their 140-plus global data centers.
And that single deal pushed Bloom's backlog of orders to an astronomical $20 billion.
$20 billion. Just staggering.
So how did that massive backlog translate into their actual financial reporting for the year?
Well, the FY 2025 financials were historic. They hit $2.02 billion in total revenue.
Wow.
Which was up over 37% year over year. The fourth quarter specifically crushed all of Wall Street's expectations, bringing in $777.7 million in revenue.
And their earnings per share beat estimates too, right?
Yeah, a massive non-GAAP UPS beat of 45 cents.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The absolute game changer, the specific metric that proves their tech actually works, is their service gross margin.
Yeah, this is the metric that used to terrify investors.
Right. Because historically, this metric was negative. It was negative 1.7% in Q4 of 2024. Why were they losing money servicing their own machines?
Because the older generations of their fuel cells degraded too quickly under the intense heat.
Oh.
Ceramic components would wear out, and Bloom had to constantly send technicians out to replace incredibly expensive parts just to keep the servers running.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It was the Achilles heel of the entire operation. You cannot scale a profitable business if every unit you sell becomes a permanent financial liability.
It's like selling a great printer, but taking a massive financial loss because you promised to replace the customer's ink cartridges for free, forever.
Exactly. You're going to go bankrupt on the ink.
But in Q4 2025, that service gross margin finally flipped. It went from negative to a positive 16.9%.
Yes.
Turning that margin positive proves that the physical hardware finally lasts as long as they promised it would. They basically fixed the ink cartridge problem.
Precisely. It shifts their whole business model from selling a piece of hardware once to locking in recurring, high-margin service revenue for a decade.
So the experimental phase is over.
Officially over.
Yeah.
The reliable industrial manufacturing phase has successfully begun.
But, just as Bloom's financials perfectly align, the broader macro environment experienced an absolute earthquake.
Oh, the legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the political wild card that hit the market, the OBBBA impact.
Right.
Now, a critical note for you listening. We are absolutely not taking any political sides here.
No politics.
Right. Whether you lean left or right, our job in this deep dive is strictly to analyze the impartial, objective market impact of this law as detailed in our sources.
And the policy landscape is really the invisible hand in the energy sector. You cannot evaluate a clean tech company's future without understanding the tax structures and tariffs.
So in July 2025, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, was signed into law.
Right.
Effectively repealing a massive chunk of the IRA. It killed the heavy wind and solar subsidies, specifically sections 45Y and 48E.
And inadvertently, making wind and solar much more expensive to build suddenly made Bloom's technology look incredibly attractive.
Because wind and solar are intermittent.
Exactly. They only generate power when the wind blows or the sun shines. But, as we discussed, data centers need baseload power.
They need 24/7 reliability.
Right. So when the government stopped subsidizing the intermittent power, the market naturally pivoted toward the reliable power.
And while OBBBA slashed those wind and solar credits, it surprisingly kept a 30% investment tax credit specifically for fuel cells starting in Jan 2026.
But with a massive twist that directly benefits Bloom.
Right. It critically stripped away all the expensive regulatory requirements that used to be attached to that tax credit.
Yeah, previously, to get that 30% discount, a company had to abide by strict prevailing wage mandates.
Paying union rates.
Right. meeting union apprenticeship quotas and staying under incredibly strict greenhouse gas emission limits. The new law removed those hurdles,
So for a customer buying a Bloom Energy server, the installation just became significantly cheaper and vastly more flexible to build.
while still getting a 30% tax break.
And on top of that, OBBBA introduced strict foreign entity of concern rules.
Which added tariffs.
Yeah, 10 to 15% tariffs on Chinese battery components. So competitors who rely on massive battery storage to pair with their solar panels are just getting crushed by supply chain costs.
Meanwhile, Bloom is completely insulated.
Because they manufacture domestically, right here in the U.S.
Exactly. Their headquarters is in San Jose,
Yeah.
and they have over 2,000 employees globally, with the vast majority working stateside.
So what does this all mean? I kind of see it like a massive game of musical chairs.
Oh, totally.
The music stopped when the OBBBA law passed. Wind companies, solar companies, and foreign battery makers all scrambled and realized their chairs were completely gone.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bloom Energy didn't just get a chair. They somehow got directed to a VIP booth with bottle service.
That's a great analogy. A law meant to cut green spending accidentally handed them a virtual monopoly on fast, deployable, subsidized data center power.
It's crazy.
It is a textbook example of unintended legislative consequences, creating a market champion. However,
Yeah, here comes the reality check.
we need a heavy dose of reality here, because the broader stock market knows all of this. These catalysts are not a secret anymore.
Right. We really have to pump the brakes because the risks priced into this stock are extreme.
Let's look at the price tag.
Okay. Their price-to-sales ratio is currently sitting at 21.79. The historical average for this company is usually around 3.
Wow.
And their forward PE is 165.
And we should clarify what that means. A forward PE of 165 means that investors are willing to pay $165 today for every single dollar of profit they expect the company to make next year.
That is a towering expectation.
It is. Some analyst models suggest the stock is technically overvalued right now by anywhere from 15.5% to 92%.
Because it's priced for absolute perfection.
Exactly. Any slight deviation from their business plan, a missed financial quarter, a delayed shipment will be violently punished by the market. The margin for error is effectively zero.
And looking at the sources, there is a fascinating tug-of-war happening behind the scenes regarding who is actually holding the stock.
Right. Institutional versus insider ownership.
Yeah. Institutional funds are buying heavily. Heavyweights like the Swiss National Bank and CalPERS are loading up. Massive institutions now make up 77% of the ownership.
But the insiders are selling.
Yes. CEO K.R. Sridhar recently sold over 256,000 shares, pocketing around $13 million.
$13 million.
And overall, insider ownership has dwindled down to just 3.6%. This raises a huge red flag for me.
It does look concerning on paper.
Like, if the 2026 guidance is so incredibly strong, with projected revenues of over $3.1 billion, why are the CEO and the founding insiders treating their own stock like it's a hot potato?
Well, this raises an important question about market cycles.
Okay.
It's actually a very common dynamic. Institutional buyers are looking at a 10-year horizon based on macro trends like the unstoppable demand for AI computing power.
Right.
But insiders are intimately aware of the friction in their immediate day-to-day operations. They might believe that the current $43 billion valuation has already absorbed all the near-term good news perfectly. If you spend a decade building a company and the market suddenly hands you a 550% premium in a single year, taking some chips off the table is just prudent wealth management.
So it doesn't mean they think the company's a spam.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean they think the company is going to fail. It just means they respect the severe volatility of the stock market.
And there is plenty to be volatile about. Let's look at their balance sheet. Bloom carries a massive $2.8 billion in debt.
That's a lot of leverage.
Yeah, leaving a debt-to-equity ratio of over 355%. And much of that debt was likely secured when interest rates were incredibly low.
Right.
But we are in a macro environment where interest rates are higher for longer. When those old loans expire, Bloom is going to have to refinance that massive debt pile at today's much higher interest rates.
Which can vaporize your cash flow. Debt is leverage. When your corporate execution is flawless, leverage amplifies your returns. But if your execution stumbles, debt becomes an anchor.
And the execution risk ahead of them is monumental.
It really is.
To meet that massive $20 billion backlog, the company has promised to scale to 2 gigawatts of production capacity by the end of 2026.
That requires a 100% expansion of their manufacturing footprint.
In just 12 months.
Yeah. If there's a single supply chain bottleneck, like a shortage of a rare earth mineral or a shipping delay in a custom ceramic part, they won't be able to build the servers on time.
And those massive contracts with Brookfield, they come with strict service level agreements, or SLAs.
Right, which carry penalties.
Severe financial penalties. If Bloom fails to deliver on the exact timeline promised, they pay.
You are basically watching a company transition from being a bespoke technology manufacturer to operating at the scale of a global, heavy industries conglomerate.
It's a massive leap.
The organizational strain of doubling your manufacturing throughput in a single year just cannot be overstated.
And finally, there's the fuel risk.
Yes.
Bloom's fuel cell servers are incredibly efficient, but they still primarily rely on natural gas right now as the bridge fuel.
True.
Any geopolitical tension, for example, escalating conflicts in the Middle East involving Iran, could cause global natural gas prices to spike unpredictably.
And that ruins the pitch, right?
Exactly. The whole appeal for data centers is that Bloom provides predictable flat-rate economics. If the cost of the fuel suddenly goes haywire, the economic case for going off-grid gets a lot less attractive.
It reminds us that while Bloom is brilliantly solving the grid interconnection problem, they are still tethered to the reality of global commodity markets. No energy solution operates in a complete vacuum.
So true. So to bring this all back to you, the next time you pull out your phone or sit at your desk and you use an AI application to write an email, generate an image, or analyze a spreadsheet, I want you to remember what's actually happening behind the screen.
The physical reality of it.
Exactly. The invisible constraint behind all that digital magic isn't software. It isn't a lack of smart engineers in Silicon Valley. It is electricity.
Yeah.
And right now, Bloom Energy has positioned itself as the physical toll touch between the AI revolution and the raw power needed to run it. They bypassed the 1950s grid, and the market rewarded them with a $43 billion crown.
They've proven the underlying chemistry, they've fixed the maintenance economics, and they've secured the massive backlog of orders.
Right.
The only question left is whether their manufacturing supply chain can survive the sheer velocity of their own success.
Yep, exactly. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Okay.
We've spent this entire time talking about how this off-grid technology benefits the massive tech giants. But think about the other side of the equation.
The public.
Right. If hyperscale data centers and the incredibly wealthy trillion-dollar tech companies that own them can just buy Bloom Energy servers and take themselves completely off-grid in 55 days, what happens to the traditional public utilities? If the biggest, wealthiest consumers of electricity successfully defect from the public grid and start generating their own power, who is left to pay for the maintenance of those aging poles, wires, and transformers?
It's the everyday homes, the small businesses, and our local communities.
A fascinating dilemma. Are we watching the beginning of a utility death spiral inadvertently triggered by the AI boom?
Wow, yeah.
It's a 1950s brick wall, and the tech giants just figured out how to fly right over it, leaving the rest of us on the ground to foot the bill.
Something to think about.
Definitely. Think about that next time you flip a light switch. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.